This is Lucy Polgar from LastBSTN, sponsored by Fight Division on the Double Up podcast with Peter Miller from Condition Nutrition. I feel like that is a lot of intros in it. That's a lot of names to throw at us. If you do hear any background noise, we are unfortunately just above a CrossFit gym, so that's what the noise will be, but we'll go through it as much as we can. So Peter, first of all, thank you so much for meeting with us, because you've got fighters and stuff in today, this week, so we know that you are busy. I want to take it like right back, because I've chewed your ear off a million times about so many different questions. So I want to start like at the very beginning and like go through it all chronologically with you. So can you hear that banging? Yeah. So start like from the very beginning, from being, so you're a chef originally, and then you were working in Australia.
Yeah.
Take us from that point to where we're at now.
I'll take you right back then.
Right back.
So right back. So I was in when I was in school, I wasn't very good in school, bit of a shit. Left school, no grades, and then I was working in a gardening centre. And then when I was about 19, 20, I thought, one of them light bulb moments, you think, well, what am I actually going to do with me? So then I ended up resitting my GCSEs, and then went to do a college course, like an access course, so it's like a year and you go to uni.
Yeah. And
then got into uni, did a sports science degree, and then when I was doing my sports science degree, I thought, this is really hard. Yeah. But then, actually I got good grades the first year, and I thought, oh, not too bad at this, and I ended up doing that, and then from that did a masters. And then when you finish the masters, you think, that's it. I'm gonna start working. I'm at the top now. I'm gonna start working with athletes and all that. It doesn't usually work like that. Yeah. So I had in my head, I actually set up condition nutrition when I just finished my masters, which was about 2016. And I was like, right, I'm gonna go to Australia, and like, this is the place where you're gonna like set up your business, go to Australia. Life, everyone's into the fitness. Went there for probably 3.5 years, and didn't do like no jobs related to fitness whatsoever.
I love the real grind story. Like.
And then, because I wanted to stay, I went over on like a backpacking visa.
Oh, right,
and then you get a 2-year visa doing that, and then
I probably like field work and stuff.
Farm work and all sorts. I did all that, and then I was like desperate to stay. I was like, I'll do anything to stay. So the only option to stay was to study. So chef was on the skilled list in Australia. So I was
like, oh my god, no way! So that's how you actually got into the
so I was like,
I'm
going to study to be a chef. Pay 30 grand to study.
Just so I can stay in Australia.
Just so I can stay in Australia.
Wow.
Then I was studying to be a chef for 2.5 years.
Oh my god!
And then during that time, I was doing like labouring, literally nothing to do with fitness or anything like that. And I still had my condition nutrition page.
That's so mad.
So I was just posting like random fitness facts, and I just remember one day a couple of people started like messaging me, "Oh, do you do plans for people?" And I was like, "Yeah." I'd done it kind of anyway, like part time, but nothing full time. And then people started messaging me. One of this fighter messaged me, set them up, jerk fighters, and then it literally just went from that. And then
before that point, had you worked with fighters? Because that was going to be one of my other questions. Like, how did you get into combat?
A couple of friends are fighters when I was a kid, so kind of did like help with the nutrition stuff like that, but nothing in like a real detailed capacity. Yeah. And then like a couple of fighters started working with me, and then just went from recommendation to recommendation, and then that was 3 years ago, and then that turned into a full-time thing.
I honestly didn't realise that's how you got into the chefing, because I just assumed with the background from
the only reason why I picked it is because
it was linked.
Chef nutrition. I thought, I can do something.
That worked out so well. That's amazing.
Yeah, I went to it was actually quite a funny story. I went to the first day in college. It was in Perth. I originally was living in Sydney, but the cheapest place to study was in Perth. So packed up and moved to Perth. Didn't have any idea anything. When it's the first class, the first day. Teacher was Russian, everyone's from like India, Bhutan, so the Scouse kid turns up. Language barrier, the language barrier was like absolutely terrible. And just did that like 2 days a week. Had to work on the mines for like work experience to be a chef, and then just did all that, and then towards the back end of getting my qualification, that's when I started getting busy with work, and then I finished, and then my job just transitioned into a full-time capacity. And then
so like the conversation we was having with Ellis was saying like it's the same sort of thing where it's like it's so mad when you go on a path for something and you have no idea how it'll work out, but if you just think fuck it will, then like it kind of does. And the way yours is all like sort of weirdly linked together just by,
but it's kind of like this was like I think it was like high when I finished my masters, because I went from like not having any grades and doing nothing, finished my masters, so it's a high, and then moved to Australia high, and then after a while, you're just like sweeping up there and you're like, what am I doing? And it's a weird kind of transition. But if someone said to me a few years ago, you'd be doing
this full time.
No idea. Like,
yes, I love that.
It's crazy.
I love that. You put a post on not long ago, and it was dead good, like with like the sort of the details about like your journey up until this point.
Yeah.
Saying like there was that moment, and you've got like the thing on, so you're working, and you're clearly doing like a job that you wouldn't have wanted to be doing, and you just basically said like, there's a point where I just decided to go all in. Like, take us to that moment where you was at the work and just thought, I'm not doing this anymore.
I think as well, it sounds like I did have like a decent life in Australia, like living in Australia.
Yeah,
of
great. Course, yeah.
But like I was doing a job where just to get by labour and stuff. You're on the building site as a labourer, you're not really doing a lot of jobs. Aussies as well, you're the English lad on the side, do that. And then for months I was doing it, and always in the back of my head I was like, what am I actually doing? But you kind of get like comfortable and
like
doing
autopilot and just
autopilot. And I was on this building site for probably about 2 months, and I was like just sweep. It was boring jobs, like sweeping up when there was nothing to sweep, and you're just standing there.
Looking busy.
And then I just remember a day where it was like, I think like someone like concreting was happening on the roof, and I had to get involved. I was just absolutely like covered in like shit, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I was like, what am I doing? This is like ridiculous. And then like I realised I need to do something. I'd saved up a little bit of money because during COVID, bit of a random sort of tangent here. When COVID happened, you were able to get your pensions out in Australia. So I took my Australian pension out that I'd saved, and then I saved a bit of money. So I had like a little bit of money saved.
Oh, decent, yeah.
So I thought, well, I've got money to last rent for, a few months. So you got probably like 5 months to work out. So I was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm not gonna work on site again. Packed it in, and then started literally just posting loads of stuff. Fitness facts, everything you can think of. Look at it now, it's awful content when you look at it. And then messaging gyms, I was emailing gyms. There's a chain called Jet, I don't know if it's a UK chain too, and I messaged them saying, I'll come to the gym and I'll give like free consultations. Went there, nobody turned up every single time, so you just stand there with your balls like, and nothing happened. And then, as I said, just like one, I think I remember put like a transformation photo of a client. And then that gets a reaction. Then someone just messaged me saying, oh, can you do me a meal plan? Blah, blah, yeah. And then he put me onto his mate, and then he put me onto his mate, and then went from like that. So my first proper like full-time fighters were all like Australian fighters.
Oh, man.
So they weren't UK fighters, and then started working with more people, linked with more gyms over there, and then just went from that, really. That's
so like the level of fighters you're working with now, obviously like Haggerty, Liam Harrison, Craven, like some of the like really big names in the game. Like, how did you transition from that, just like small recommendations through friends, and then a bit of Australian work, and then like now you're working with like the top athletes in the UK? Well, I think one of the first fighters I started working with in Perth was a lad called Jack Della, and he had a fight on the Dana White Contender Series. So if you win a fight, you get a UFC contract. And I started working with him, and then he won that, so he got a UFC contract. So he was like my first like in kind of like big fights. He was in the UFC, won on his UFC debut. So that obviously you're putting that on your page that you work with something, more people started reaching out, and then just through the power of social media, UK fighters started messaging me, and then Bendon reached out, and then I was probably about, when was this? Probably February 2022. It's not even that long ago, really, is it? 2022, that was when, just after Jack had just won his debut in the UFC, and then I was thinking, I want to go home and visit family. I hadn't seen my mum and dad for like 3 years because of COVID and stuff like that. So I ended up going home, but actually coincided with Nathan fighting for his world title. And then like the weekend I came home, and he won his world title. And I'd been there, I'd been in that environment, so I was like, I want to stay a little bit longer. And then it literally just went from like... And you've worked with him loads now as well, so since then you've just like... So he was probably the first like big name in the UK Thai boxing scene I started working with, and then it just goes from like recommendation, and it's crazy how like... It's mad how it snowballs, isn't it? Like once you get that one, I think always in business, it's like you push, and you're not getting anywhere, and then you just hit that kind of like threshold, and then you go, and then it just sort of, it works. And this sounds a bit strange, but I feel like
now I don't have to work as hard. We feel like
no,
it just comes smooth. Like, it's a lot easier because the first bit
uphill.
you're just posting stuff, someone's getting like one like and no one's commenting, you're messaging people and you get nothing back and you're like,
all uphill.
Is this worth it? And then you just get that little bit of luck along the way and then like things happen like that.
I love stories like this. It's so inspirational, and because it makes you like when you're going through like similar sort of things, like obviously us now with LastBSTN and stuff, like it makes you think like everyone you talk to who has got that massive success story now, who's like living the dream of like whatever their passion is and they're getting to live it every day. The story, like the details are different, but the bones of it are the same. So it's such like a similar theme throughout, and it's just like I think for anyone who's like sitting at home now at that phase where they're posting and they're doing the uphill climb and they're trying, or even if it's not media, like whatever the business is, it's so refreshing to hear like there does get to a point, keep going for it, because there does get to that point when you're uphill, and then there's that slight tilt and then it all will snowball.
Well, from me, my business actually doing well, to me finishing my master's degree was like 5 years. That's like a long, 5 years is a long time for something to eventually, and a lot of people just think, oh, you know what, it's not happening after 6 months.
You're all here, And
a lot of people, like I remember telling a lot of people what I wanted to do when I was on the building site, saying, tell me mates in the pub or people I was living with, my housemates, and they were like,
what? Like not getting it.
I've got an idea. And like, what? I was like, after that day with the building site stuff, went in, I was like, I'm going to start in this nutrition. I remember them looking at me like, you said this for a couple of years, and like, at the time, no one really, it's expected, but just sometimes a bit of stubbornness and blind. Oh yeah, 100%. Faith.
Like delusional belief in yourself. I love it. But it's paid off, absolutely. So talk to us then, like when you do get a fight. So say like with the big names now, like say Harrison's got a fight coming up. What does it look like from like time wise? Is that different for each fighter? So like would they contact you 6 weeks out and say I need this, or is it 8 weeks out?
It varies. I have people who contact me a couple of months out, a week out, 2 weeks out. It's just
really? And then so obviously depending on what time they give you, that makes a massive difference on what you're
100%. Because a lot of people might come to me a couple of weeks out and go, oh, I've just been offered the fight. It only really depends on when they get a fight.
Yeah, of course, actually.
Especially in the Thai boxing scene, it's you can get a fight, a couple of weeks notice, 6 weeks notice, and that doesn't make it have a big impact in terms of the diet. Are they too heavy? Are they coming in really heavy? Are they walking around at a decent weight? So pretty varies, but I find with like the bigger names, they've always got a fight like lined up.
You've got a bit more notice.
You've got a bit more notice. Sometimes you have like a 12, sometimes like 15-week camp.
Yeah. So what's like when, say if you've been with someone who it's like their first time using a proper nutritionist, what's like the biggest or like the biggest and the most common things that people do wrong? Do you know, like, because you spoke about this like with water loading or fighting at heavier weights, like what are the common themes where like you must get it where you just think, oh God, like they're doing this completely wrong? Like
I think especially with like dieting and cutting weight, a lot of people think, oh, that's it, I have to like strip everything. Take away the sauces from
I said this to you on the last time we spoke.
From the cupboard.
I look at your page and I'm like, how is this like a diet? It looks sick. Like these look well nice.
And just getting rid of all the sauces, getting rid of everything like remotely tasty, and chicken, broccoli, and rice. That's it.
Yes, but why do we all think that? Because we all do.
I think it's probably from like
old school.
Like when Arnold was doing it, Arnold Schwarzenegger do like a documentary back in the day. I think he was like chicken and rice stuff. I think that's just kind of like evolved. You need to, if you want to train healthy in the gym, you need to eat chicken, broccoli, and rice. And same with this. And I think there's also as well with fighters, there's just not a lot of education in terms of like combat sports. I think I mentioned to you last time where in football, rugby, there's always like a team. The club have got a physio, they've got an S&C coach, they've got a nutritionist, they've got counsellor, psychologist.
To source this
but when it's just like an independent gym, it's just not.
Yeah, that's true actually.
And also in terms of, I suppose like the money's never really been in it, because especially in places like Thai boxing, there's not a lot of money involved. So to get a nutritionist probably back in the day might have been a bit more expensive, and I think that's just been passed down for years and years. And luckily now there's people like yourself and other people in this space that are educating fighters to do things the right way. Because you see like when we're talking about with food's really bland, and during a fight week, when you first start working, someone they go like, oh, what do you usually eat? Oh, I usually have like, piece of fish and that's it.
Oh, do you remember the fish and the rice cake guy?
Yeah, the fish and the rice cake kind of thing. And then when you tell, I remember a conversation with Nathan Bendon, and the first time I worked with him, he's like, so when it was like Wednesday, so should I stop eating now? I was like, what do you mean? He said, oh, because I'm weighing in Friday, I should like stop eating my food on Wednesday. I was like, no. I was like, you can eat right up till Thursday evening. He's like, what? Then yeah, we've got meals up until Thursday. He's like, I've never done that before. I've never eaten. And he was like taken back. I've never done that. And he's been fighting for years. So you think that's just been passed down. You just got to starve yourself. And
it's mad, isn't it? Like, because if you don't, and this sounds really obvious, but if you don't know, you don't know. Yeah, so until somebody comes along and says, actually, try it this way, you are just going to like follow suit of what's come before it. I feel like the thing that drives everyone mad, and not just in the fight game, like just in the fitness industry in general at the minute, there's so many contradictions. It's exhausting. Even stupid things like fruit, like, oh, fruit's really good for you, but it's full of sugar, and if you blend it, it's going to be different. And and I understand why people are just overwhelmed and just think, oh, I'll just starve myself because I can't get that wrong. So I think because of there's so many conflicting ideas, we're not advocating for that, by the way. But I'm saying, like, I think that's where a lot of the mindset comes from, is because like there's so many conflicting. Like
so and so heard this from this guy, and especially with weight cutting as well. Oh, well, John, he's never missed weight. He ran in a sweatsuit.
He's done it this way,
but he's never missed weight ever. It's like, yeah, he's done it that way, but has he done it the right way? And it's just been passed down.
Yeah.
Are you thinking, for example, with like Liam Harrison? It's the first time he's worked with a nutritionist with me last year, and he's been fighting for
that's mental.
For God knows how long. So. It just shows you
and they all say as well, like, the difference in how they feel. Yeah. So I was talking to Dan, like another fighter, Dan McGowan, another fighter, and he was saying like the difference in the feeling of doing it that way, and like having someone like yourself to say like, why don't you try this, you can have this, don't restrict that too much, and just giving them that knowledge. They're going into the fight so much more energized because they've not had that horrible couple of weeks before it.
Yeah. What I said to you before about if I could, like, sometimes you don't have to completely overhaul someone's diet, you just make a little change here and there. That should just be the difference that you need.
Yeah.
Instead of like, oh no, you got to take, like, if someone stands up with me, I won't go, right, get rid of absolutely everything.
Yeah. All the good stuff gone, all the carbs gone.
You got to incorporate things into the lifestyle of what they usually have, like.
Yeah, of course.
It'd be the worst thing, just here's a meal plan, set meal plan, chicken, rice and broccoli. See you later.
Yeah, and it's mad, isn't it, how people have done that for so long, but now obviously, hopefully with like this new wave of information and like obviously you sharing everything, it's like a happier way of doing it. Because I'm sure people have achieved great things doing that, but like, are you happy? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it terrible?
It's suffering more than necessary.
Yeah, 100%.
Path of least resistance. So
yes, love that. Absolutely.
You can do it a better way then.
Talk to us about water loading. So for anyone who's not a fighter and just like hears this term, like if they're just interested in fighting or they're just getting into it or they're just going for the first one or whatever, if they're quite new to it, like, what is that? You did a video about that recently and saying like people have been told to just like smash 5 litres and...
water load is basically manipulating your fluid intake to like increase urine output. So if you would drink large volumes of fluid, it switches off hormones to basically excrete more fluid, which can help you lose weight on fight week. But the water loading thing's been a bit of an area in like bodybuilding, to that final week, comp week, and there's been stories with like 15 litres a day and this, and for 2 weeks long. And there was actually a really cool study about 3 years ago in Australia. This guy Reed Reel, he got I think like 20 grapplers in. They had 3 days of water on, like had a diet that mimicked fight week, so like low carb, fibre, sodium. They water loaded for 3 days. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it was 100 ml per kilo of body mass, so 70 kilos, for example, 7 litres for 3 days. And then the final day, on the Thursday before weigh-in, was 15 ml per kilo, which is around a litre. And then nothing until the weigh-in on Friday, and that was an effective water loading strategy for...
So where do these wild numbers from like 15?
I think it's just passed down from, so-and-so did this way, and then even when you read forums about water loading, you've got to... I start off on a really high one and taper it down, and there's so many different methods, and the science behind it, there's no science behind it. Like,
it's just mad, isn't it? How like an idea can just come about and then everyone just jumps on it, whether there's any facts behind it or not. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I'll try that.
Yeah, just jump on board and
So with the water loading, talk about the time of it, because then obviously we see him like in the saunas like trying to sweat it all out. So what's like to somebody who doesn't understand like the difference of that, like why am I drinking it all and then I'm going to try and sweat it all out?
The final day where it's at that 50 ml per kilo, it's like 1 litre. So that's technically like a fluid restriction.
Right.
So then what you do, you'd finish the fluids like Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and then you'd cut the weight on the Thursday or the Friday morning.
And like the sauna or the bath.
Yeah, the sauna or the bath, to get that like final bit of weight off.
Yeah. I've seen some of them look awful. Some of them look like quite fun, you like watching fights and stuff, but when you see it on like films, I've seen like Conor McGregor do it and he's in like the suit and stuff, and then everyone's like carrying him to the bed and you think...
It's never, even if it's a kilo, it's never a pleasant experience. I've seen guys cut 1 kilo, I've seen guys cut like 5, 6, I've seen the whole spectrum, and it's never a comfortable process. There's always stages, I think, with the water cut. There's like the happy, let's get this done, and then like the middle thing, there's like hating life, this is shit, and then
was that Joe Craven you did that video with? And he's in the bath and he's singing, and then he's like, So
I can predict it like clockwork. Every single time I know there's going to be a moment where they're going to be like, this is shit, I hate this, and then you only got a kilo to go, and they're like, boom,
and then they get buzzing again.
Yeah, start singing, and then
so that's another thing we spoke about like off camera as well before, like the relationship you get with these guys because of that, because you're with them in these like really, you know, like emotionally intense moments. Like you said, they buzz in 1 minute and then you feel really tired and fed up the next, and then buzzing again, because you're with them through all those moments, and you know through the excitement of leading up to the fight and the fight, you end up with like this really good relationship with them. So like is that something that was intentional for you? Did you want that, or does it just naturally happen?
I think it kind of naturally happens when you're working with someone that much and you're speaking to them that much. I think it's not really forced. It just kind of happens. Where with like Nathan and Joe, it just ended up being like really good mates. Where I can say to Joe like, oh, he's looking a bit big out of camera, like call him like fat or something. Just as a joke, but it's nice to have that relationship because
of course. It makes it light as well in the hard times, doesn't it? Well,
I think a lot of people think a nutritionist is some serious guy.
Yeah.
You've got a pen and a pad, and you've got to do this, and you no personality.
Yeah, that's right. With your little clipboard checking that he's done everything right.
And I think as well with my journey, I'm just a normal lad. I've just come from working class background, gone through the whole. So I'm just normal. So I'm not this academic who's this and that.
You're very relatable.
So it's kind of relatable to people, and I think it just comes naturally where you just have I've built like really good relationships with pretty much everyone I work with now, and I think when we spoke about last time, we're like having that person there and they know I'm there, and they can message me for something if they've got any problems, and that kind of like friendship's good.
100%. So it's great for you obviously, because as in a work capacity to have that relationship obviously makes work really enjoyable, but on the flip side, like you just said, like it's actually really beneficial to them, because there will be times in those fight camps or you know like leading up to the fight where they are, you know, quite up and down with the emotions, or like it's just tough anyway, like the level of training and stuff. So to have somebody that they've got as like a solid base and a rock who can give them the advice, but who's actually backed up, because it's all well and good like ringing me or Miles and we're like, you got this, keep going, bro, like, but we don't know, do you know what I mean, like, but you've got like the science to be like, listen, it's like clockwork, like I know this is going to happen, you're going to feel like this at this point, this is how we fix it, this is how we make you feel better, and to have somebody who can support them but actually like properly with facts and like teach them how to do it.
I can't blow my own trouble. Like, I think I'm quite...
we love it.
I'm quite enjoyable to work with. I'm not
yeah,
like...
Of course, it's a laugh,
people think I'm quite good to work with, and they can get on with me.
Yeah,
so I think that's a big factor where, like, if you work with me, they know that... I'm trying to think of a good word. So I was going to say have a good time. That's not a good work.
No,
you know what I mean? Just
definitely.
Like,
and it's the proof's in the pudding, because they're coming back like repeated times, like doing repeated camps with you. Talk to us a little bit, because you've done loads of videos about this, and obviously, hopefully everyone will be on the page anyway, but if they're not on your page, talk to us about the sodium and fibre and why it's so important. So like obviously the difference of restricting and then after the weight cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, so one of the strategies that you'd use on fight. So you can split up like fight camp into like different stages. So the first stage would be like the chronic weight loss phase. So say you're 80 kilos and you need to compete at 70 and you've got 8 weeks out to go, okay, right, we've got to diet down. We want you around roughly, say, 6 to 8% from your fight weight. So we calculate what's 70 plus 6%, 8%. But okay, we want that to be that number 1 week out. So we diet down to say, your maths are terrible at the moment, but say 75 kilos, for example.
Yeah, of course.
So we go from 80 to 75 in them 7 weeks. We diet down, that's losing weight chronically. So that's a loss of like actually body tissue. So that's fat, and sometimes you tap into a little bit of muscle as well, depending on the athlete. And then that final week is called the acute weight loss phase. So that's losing weight acutely. So not actually losing any body tissue, but by manipulating your carb stores, low in fibre, low in salt, doing the water like we spoke about, and then doing the water cut. So the first one would be like dropping carbs. So carbs are stored as glycogen in your muscle. So typically when you're having carbs, 1 gram of carbs binds to 3 grams of water. So when you've been to takeaway or been eating out, you wake up the next day, a little bit heavier there, because of that water association. So you're having 300 grams of carbs, you're holding quite a lot of water through that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the initial strategy that you do on fight week is drop the carbs down. So you want to be keeping the carbs as high as possible up until fight week, because then we can use that strategy so we can lose that water weight. And then the other strategies be the fibre. So you're having quite a lot of fibre in your diet. A lot of it gets undigested in your gut. So simply by removing fibre that final week, you can lose like a decent amount of body mass, like 1 to 2%. But that's also dependent on, are you having a lot of fibre? Fruits, vegetables prior to that fight week. So what a lot of fighters do, show about 4, like boom,
smash the broccoli.
Get rid of everything. Get rid of everything, like all vegetables. So then it comes to fight week and they haven't got any kind of
nothing to give.
And then the final one would be sodium. So water. Sodium usually follows water in the body. So same again if you go to the Chinese. I keep on reference to Chinese and takeaway, but you go to a big Chinese.
Your favourites here. We know what he's ordering Friday night.
You're having like a big meal like that, high in salt.
Yeah.
You wake up because the water association with the sodium. So just same again, by dropping that out on fight, we've got to lower it. You're never going to completely remove sodium from your diet, but by lowering it, you can lose like 1 to 2% of your body mass. So like if say you've got 8% on fight week to lose of your body weight, you could lose a couple of percent through dropping your carbs, 1 to 2% your fibre, 1 to 2% potentially your sodium, and then the rest, that 1 to 2% is just the water go. Yeah,
so ideally then, like if it's time-wise, I know you're saying like they don't always get a lot of time, like a lot of notice, but like ideally then is it like 6 to 8 weeks before, so you know what they're having, if they are having the fibre, if they are having the...
So when someone comes to me like a last minute kind of like, fireman job to get up, put up the fight, I've got 2 weeks and like, what's your diet at the moment? Well, I've cut the carbs out already and I've done this and I'm on really low calories. Okay, well we know when we go into fight week, we haven't got that kind of them strategies to use because we're not using them at the moment. So that's when you're going into, okay, we're going to have to do a decent water cut now, because if you're having no carbs and fibre and it comes to fight week,
it's just going to have to come through that.
So as soon as we drop that anyway, you're not going to lose a lot. So then we're going into like 5-6% like body losses of dehydration.
So the biggest mistakes post weigh-in, so like the first one that we can all resonate with is you've done the weight cut and then you just absolutely smash all the food, like Krispy Kreme donuts, like all the food you want, and that's like a really big mistake, because then obviously they're going to get fatigued, they're going to fill too quickly, they're not going to be able to put the weight back on properly. So just talk to us a little bit about like the biggest mistakes after the weight cut and what's the best thing to do instead.
So when you've done them strategies, say that example that we gave, and then you've done that, you've lost that final couple of percent doing a water cut. First thing you do when you weigh in, you want to replace that fluid. So fluid over food.
Yeah, fluid over food.
Fluid over food. So what you've lost in water, you times it by 1.5. So you replace 150% of the fluids lost. So you lose a kilo, which is 1.5
back on.
So that first hour, you want to be getting that fluid in, so having like water with electrolyte or like some kind of electrolyte solution, because when you sweat, you lose water and electrolytes, so you want to replace both of them. So if you're just putting water in, you're not replacing the electrolytes. So that's like the first thing. And then you want to slowly introduce like light carbohydrate snacks. So carbohydrate recommendations post weigh-in, typically around like 10 grams per kilogram of body mass. So, for example, again, you weigh 70 kilos, you want to be having like 700 grams of carbs in that post-weighing period. That sounds quite a lot.
And I was like, that sounds great.
That sounds like a hell of a lot of food. And like, this is where like it's important of like following a post-weighing plan, because
otherwise
if you just said to someone, you've got to have 700 grams of carbs post-weighing, they'd be like, sweet.
Let's just go
straight to the Italian. Let's get ice cream. But you've got to spread it out, because what ends up happening is the fighters will weigh in. Firstly, they'll just have water. You just download the water, so half an hour later, like, oh, shit, I need a piss now, and you've just done a water cut, and you need to go through. That's a sign that you haven't done the right rehydration strategy. And then secondly, the Nando's, pizzas, whatever, and then they're just like, oh my God, I feel like
awful, I feel fatigued,
awful. Then I can't eat for a couple of hours, and that delays you eating for the rest of the day, so then you're not recovering properly, you're not replacing the fluids, you're not replacing the carbs, and then you're not optimally recovered. So you've got to space it out, really. So
so that's the biggest one, is like the space,
So really, you don't want to be having like a main meal, depending on how much you've cut, say like 2 hours post-weighing. So the first hour, getting them fluids back in, then say, for example, first hour, say you have like a litre of water, electrolytes, and then the second hour maybe having like sports drinks like a Powerade, Lucozade, and then introducing like light carbohydrate snacks like jam on bread or honey, do light things like that, and then slowly introduce more solid foods. But as I said, what a lot of fighters do is
just go straight for it.
Where's the Nando's, where's the Thai, and this happens especially quite a lot in Australia, because the weigh-ins in Australia, they're always evening weigh-ins. So when you're thinking, because they're over here sometimes in the morning, like, well, I need it's bedtime in 6 hours, I'm on a full day, so they go for the Thai restaurant straight away, and then like, I can't eat anymore. So that's a big mistake. And also just not knowing like the things about the fluids. They don't know,
so like 1.5 to 1,
like how much did they just wing it? And then what potentially could happen if you've done a big water cut and you haven't placed the fluids, you could potentially be dehydrated in your brain.
I seen that you were talking to Liam about that, saying like people don't realise, like, obviously you were saying like there's two different ways that you hold water or something, and if you're bringing it from the cell, you're actually dehydrating the brain and like actual like important organs. So there's like, if you're not getting the right advice and the right information, there is a risk that you actually are taking nutrients away that is going to lead to like.
But especially if you're doing a big weight cut, you probably train before, say you weighed yourself after, and you probably like a kilo lighter, you typically lose that pretty easy. But when you're doing like a big weight cut, you're pulling water from the cells, vital organs, brain, and then that's when risk of concussion could happen, because you're not replacing them fluids if you're just winging it anyway.
Definitely.
And then you've probably seen it where someone's been hit in a fight, and how's he been knocked out from that? And that's anecdotally where
of course, but
there's
like,
no way to determine.
It makes a difference.
It's definitely a factor, I think.
I've seen another thing that you said as well, which is so true, about like the difference of just like a couple of percent. So if you do the weight cut properly and the rehydration properly, and these little things, it's only like 1-3% difference. But in those last rounds, or in those moments when if you are hit with something, that makes the difference. It really, really does. And that's like obviously applicable to anything. Like just 1% difference, like compounded, like every time you're going to get better, and then hopefully over time it'll be a little bit easier to apply, because I feel like if you've not done these things initially, when you first start coming to them, it just feels like information overload. And sometimes I found that anyway with like clients like in the fitness industry, when you start telling them all the information, even though to us, because we've done it for years and we get it, we're like, just do this, and we're saying but they're like panicking, and they think we're telling them like all this like massive information overload, and a lot of the time it just makes them give up. So I think like when you're doing it like slow, steady, and
I think the post weighing period is actually a decent period as well. Cause I give stuff like sweets, Cocoa Pops, like nice things to have. So all you need to do is just follow it right, and you can eat decent foods. But it's just as you said about the 1-2%, you following a post weighing plan could be the difference of you having that little bit more energy.
That last little bit for the last round. 100%.
I think what we've noticed is like when we've been to gyms, like literally, obviously there's a lot of talent involved, but literally if you put in the work, the likelihood is that you can get some result. People are just so dedicated that they're almost unstoppable. You're coming at it from more of a scientific. Is there any is the information different to someone like Liam Harrison than it would be to someone that just wanted to lose weight?
Yeah, if it's just like the average person who wants to lose weight, there's different principles to follow. Because, you know, for example, you know, the post-weighing periods where you can have them kind of sports drinks and sugary snacks and Cocoa Pops. What would you give? Would you give that to like
someone who's trying to sustainably?
Yeah. So it's like it's kind of a different crossover between like normal nutrition and sports nutrition, where
of course,
the guidelines go sort of cross over a little bit.
It's a good question. Like, so I was going to ask that, like the difference of like, so obviously with fighters, what we're actually trying to do is get them to the weight so that they can rehydrate, and then they're coming in heavier than what they weigh in at.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a very tactical thing that they do it in.
Yeah.
But with like, say the average person who isn't wanting to fight, who's just watching this because they're interested in health and fitness and maybe thinking, oh, how do fighters lose this weight? How can I lose that? But obviously they don't want to put it back on after. The difference with the fighter is they want to put that weight back on so they can go into the ring heavier. So yeah, for people who are looking at like just general weight loss tips, it would be like the same kind of lead up, but then not the post.
It's similar principles where, you know, you want to, you know, make sure you have enough protein for recovery, carbohydrates for training sessions, are you having enough fluids, keep you hydrated throughout the day, you're getting enough sleep. They're the kind of fundamentals you want to be.
That's a massive one, the fluid though, like just for normal, like not fighters, just for normal, like the amount of times people think they're starving and they've not had a drink all day. Like if you have a drink a lot of the time, like and like sip it throughout, like it stops hunger so much.
Well, if you probably hydration tested like 100 people off the street, probably a good 70-80% of them would probably be dehydrated.
Yeah, 100%.
And that plays a massive factor if you dehydrate, especially
like
if you
cravings and stuff.
Yeah, and when you're training as well, you know, you're dehydrated by 1-2%. That can affect like your cognitive function and your general power output in them training sessions. So, I think with just the general person wanting to get fit, you just need to get not overcomplicate things and just get the fundamentals right. You know, making sure you're having good serving, fruit and vegetables a day. You're keeping the protein intake high. You're spreading your meals, evenly throughout the day too. What a lot of people do is like they'll have like a tiny breakfast, a medium lunch, and then they'll have like a massive dinner, to crave like hunger. Spreading out across the day. Not really much emphasis on kind of supplements, but just getting them fundamentals right, and then having that kind of baseline to work off. And then you can go into looking into, should I take supplements, should I do that?
So much supplement chat at the minute, but again, that's quite hard because I feel like most of the time when you see it on like Instagram, like a supplement, there's some guy who's getting paid to say, try these because they're the best in the world, and then you think, what are they? Or are you just getting paid for that?
I think people just run before they can walk, and they're just a general person trying to get fit.
A lot of people, it's so common.
And they automatically look like the first.
What's the cheat? What's the
instead of
one?
What food should I get, or how should I plan my diet?
What's the magic pill?
What supplement should I get? Oh, so and so. I just train in a normal gym, and you hear like people go, oh, I'm on these caffeine tablets, I'm on this, and they ask like, what do you reckon? I'm like, why did you buy that? Why didn't you come to me before you bought it?
It's so true though, like people do want like obviously the magic pill and the quick fix, but you're saying like just get the fundamentals right first and then you can look at adding in. One thing that I do want to ask is the electrolyte hype, because obviously everyone is like really onto like electrolytes at the minute. So for a fighter, obviously we're saying like you need to put them in. So for like the normal average training person who's just doing like a normal weight session, would you say that they actually do have the benefit? Like
100%. If you're doing a decent training session and you're sweating, like 100% getting it. There's ways of getting it back in. There's a couple of ways you can obviously put it in your fluids post training. So when you sweat, you lose water and electrolytes, but you use more water and electrolytes, but you still need to get them electrolytes back in. So simple ones. There's ones I recommend in Tesco called SIS Hydro tablets. Just put one of them in your training drink. Especially if you're like a heavy sweater, that's when you got to put the emphasis on, replenishing them. And you can do stuff as well where you can add a little bit more salt to your foods. Post training just to replace them. Joe
Ryan posts that a lot. He puts pink Himalayan salt in his drugs, doesn't he? Yeah.
Just stuff like that. The Himalayan salt is good. I just don't think it tastes very nice, so I always go for the electrolytes.
Yeah,
but,
I can't imagine putting that in a drink of water versus like the lemon electrolytes from Tesco are lovely. Like,
I always say that because my dissertation, I had to do, it was a supplement called sodium bicarbonate. Going off with a tangent here, but sodium bicarb is like basically...
People clean their teeth with that, don't they?
It's called a buffer, so basically when you drink it before exercise, it can help you like delay fatigue. Do you know the build-up of like lactic acid? It's like a simpler version. But the study I was doing was that, and the placebo was just salt.
Oh, right, yeah,
So people were just drinking pure salt, and I tested myself.
Placebo is real, you know,
I tested myself, and it was just like, just drinking like seawater, and that just, ever since then, the thought of just like, even though people don't mind putting salt in it, like, I can't do it.
Yeah, it's the placebo effect like is wild though, innit? Because like there's so many cases where like that is true. So I think sometimes like what Miles was saying earlier, like sometimes somebody has just got that mentality where if they think they're ticking all the boxes, even if they're doing random ones, like they're taking this tablet that don't really do anything, in their head they're like ticking every box. So like they become unstoppable. Yeah. Even if that's not really.
But a lot of supplements as well, like for example, like creatine, like the performance benefit may be like a couple of %, but I've chatted to people in the gym and they're like, oh yeah, I'm feeling off that creatine, you know, I'm so much stronger, like I'm like put on like 5 kilos since that creatine, and you're like, it's probably not just the creatine, you have been training on like these other things, and I'm having a break from the creatine, I'm thinking, why just take it too, and there's just the mindset of when you think this supplement's like, as soon as you take it, you're just like,
Hulk up.
Just having just them little, like, a lot of them supplements are just the 1-2, the creatine, like the 1-2%. You're not gonna, you're not gonna naturally like see it. You're not gonna suddenly go, oh, I'm benching 50 kilos. Now I've been on that creatine, benching 120 kilos. It's got to be that creatine. It's like,
it is that 1-2% that we were talking about. Like for a fighter, obviously it makes a massive difference, but just for the average, person in the gym, it's not.
A lot of emphasis on people just think, oh, I need to get a stack of supplement stack, and then as you said, where people on social media and go,
they're selling it,
I get messages as well. People go, oh, we sell this, we advertise this product. I go down a rabbit hole with like the CBD one is one that kind of gets me a bit annoyed a little bit.
Go down it.
To go down the CBD rabbit hole. So I think it's got to be the most overhyped supplements. This is going to offend a lot of people, I think. But,
no, say it, I love it.
So there was a study.
It's that placebo. So they're saying like, if you've got a sore knee, you put this oil on, your kne's better now. That's what I think. Like I've never used it, but that's how I imagine it. Like,
this up, I'll use that.
This is how I imagine it. Like, oh, you've broke your knee, put this oil on it, and you'll be right.
It's so with CBD, there's been research on like cognitive benefits and mood, depression, and loads of little things like that. But the research isn't like concrete. So what people just jumped on the CBD wagon and they've just gone, there's gummies, there's gels, there's drinks.
I've seen the gummies,
But that doesn't necessarily mean how bioavailable it is. So you could have one of them gummies and it doesn't have any effect. I'll backtrack a little bit. So there was a study a couple of years ago, and they basically batch tested a load of CBD products from America to see whether
like different ones, like gummies, oils, like different types.
Different brands, and checked whether the CBD oil content on the ingredients actually matched when they tested it.
Right.
So what did they have? What it said on the tin, basically. And when they tested like 23 of the most popular, one of the most popular supplements, or some of them anyway, like the amount, like I think only like 10% had the actual CBD content in them.
How are they? Is that not false advertising?
Because it's kind of not regulated. So when I see things, oh, rub this on, it's like, oh my God. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely benefits on, but it all depends on like what you're having. Like I don't know what specifically if, having like droplets or gummies and stuff like that, which one's the best, but it's a very overhyped supplement. It's not going to suddenly just go, oh my God. Like the same with the creatine.
You can start doing backflips now.
and these drops of recovery, and it's also as well, this is me going off a tangent again.
I love it.
One of I think it was that study, they tested it, and some of them had, because obviously with the THC, had like THC content in, which could be if you got drug tested, you would fail a drug test.
Shit, yeah,
so people are taking these brands.
So
people are taking these brands, even though there's very, very, very small amount of THC in some of these products. But some of them, because they're not batch tested and they're not regulated, people have actually failed drug tests because they found like THC. They found like THC in the CBD oil products. So when you see all these gummies and Joe's and there's no regulation in them. It's especially athletes in like high level UFC, one championship. Imagine failing the drug test because you had CBD.
Because you had a gummy.
Wow. And it probably does absolutely fuck all too.
Yeah, I had a jelly baby and I failed the test.
Oh yeah, I mean recovery there, it's well better. I'm not having that carbohydrate dinner. Get them gummies or I'm a new man at these gummies.
I love it.
What I've seen is mushrooms. You know, like different...
Yeah.
What's that? Mushrooms, as in like hallucinogen? Like what?
Am I on a lion's mane mushrooms and all
that. It's the same thing with the CBD. Like, there's been studies on it, but there's just not enough to like, for example, creatine, there's thousands of research papers on creatine, on benefits and multiple benefits.
Yeah.
But with stuff like CBD, there's been a little bit of research on,
not enough.
Mood or, reducing depression or anxiety. Yeah, there's been a little bit, but there's not conclusive. And then there's been a little bit...
And that can be quite subjective to each person as well.
There's a little bit on, maybe recovery. Oh, there's signs that might help with recovery. There's not concrete evidence. So people just like take all that and then just make a CBD. I'm rinsing CBD, but like they'll have a product and go, CBD oil helps reduce this, and I'm like,
does it?
So when you see a supplement and it says, helps improve endurance and helps improve recovery.
It's like
it's very arbitrary terms. Like, what does that improve endurance? Like,
you're gonna get me paranoid now. I'm gonna be looking at everything I take now and be like reading it. I'm gonna send you a picture of everything I take, and I need you to.
I feel like I've just gone on it for a rant then.
No, it's good.
CBD oil's contacted me.
But do you know?
CBD sponsors are like,
I'd put money on the people who I know are using CBD oil. Don't honestly think that it does a lot.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I get that. But it's good that we've got you on because it is hard, like, obviously for fighters as well, but I'm talking about, like, just the normal, everyday person now who's just working a normal job and just going to the gym. Like, why wouldn't they trust? Like, of course, if it says improves performance or whatever, you read that and think, oh, buzzing. Yeah. And then it's a shame that it's become so monetized now that the information is literally lies. So like you said, like the potency of it, and if it says it's giving you this amount, but it's actually giving you this amount, and how can your body convert it? And I just think the way the world's going at the minute, because everything's like so money driven, it's such a shame for the everyday person who is genuinely trying and thinks they're doing everything right. Yeah. Another one that I could go off on an absolute rant about is all the protein like options that we have at the minute, like protein yogurts, protein shakes. And some of these have the cheap saying, so I'm type 1 diabetic for anyone who doesn't know, so I have to know like the sugar content on everything. And some of these say like 25 grams of protein, like health kick and like improves everything, and they've got like 15 grams of sugar in them. Bear in mind, like a bottle of Lucozade is like 17. And I think that's fucking mental. Like this is being like advertised as like a health product. And then to be fair to the everyday person who's coming in, and it says like one of them, I'm not going to name it properly, but like it says no added sugar across the front of it.
You're going to have to tell us
so
about it.
I'll tell you off camera. I don't want to get sued. But there's one of them, and I would have fallen for it if obviously I weren't diabetic and I didn't have to look at the ingredients to know what I'm injecting for it, because I have to put my own insulin in. And it says no added sugar across the front, and then I turned it over and there was 15 grams of sugar in it. And I was like, that is loads. Like say a bottle of Lucozade is 17. Yeah. So you're drinking a bottle of Lucozade thinking it's like helping you with, I don't know, you're on like a weight loss program and you think you're hitting your protein, because all they see is the 25 gram of protein on the front.
I think protein's been very marketable now these days.
So marketable.
Protein bar or protein muesli bar, and you look at it and it's like 8 grams of protein. I wouldn't class that as a protein bar.
Oh, do you know what's bad for that?
Protein Weetabix, there's I think there's like 4 grams of difference. Yeah. Like 4 grams isn't a lot.
The Trek bars are naughty for that. I love them. I do love them. But they're full of sugar and they've got like 6 grams of protein. And it says protein bar across it.
They love putting like the protein, things like that.
But it's mental, like how it's become that, and then it is a shame for the everyday person who, to be fair, like just sees no added sugar, 25 gram of protein, buzzing. But then when you turn it over, it's actually, it's not really what it's saying. Yeah.
Same with this is another one that I don't like. You might have seen like alkaline water.
Oh yeah.
Alkaline water is like, that's another thing. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, water's become quite a hype at the minute because everyone's like, it has to be filtered, but it has to have your electrolytes in, and if it's filtered, it loses like the whatever it's got in. And I just really understand like normal people's point of view. If you're not in the fitness industry, all these like things coming around.
Yeah, your mind's just completely blown.
Like one person's telling you, oh, you have to drink water, but you can't be the tap, and if you filter it, then you're going to lose this, and you have to put the electrolytes in. And for just the normal everyday person who isn't, you know, who doesn't go into depth in the research of it, it must just be so overwhelming.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And it's a shame that, like say, like these protein options at the minute, I mean, some of them are great. Some of them have like really high protein, really low sugar. But some of them, like say 15, 16 grams of sugar in. And I just think that is wild. Yeah. And then people are like smashing these first thing in the morning and then wondering why they're knackered at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Because you've had this massive sugar hype and then just like crashed and it's a shame because they're coming to me and being like, oh, I've just got no energy, I'm absolutely knackered and this is what I'm eating. And then you look at them and think, oh, you're on a massive sugar, a massive sugar wave. But yeah, I suppose the only way to combat that is to try and get people to actually look like don't just trust what it's saying. It's like you say, if it says enhances performance or whatever, or you know, no added sugar.
My thing that's like gives me alarm bells which people should look out for. If it says like arbitrary terms like improves endurance, like helps with recovery, like things like that. You know, that's like there's such a massive like
grey area.
There's a grey what improve endurance.
Yeah.
Give me a bit more than improves recovery. There's so many factors that improve recovery, hydration, carbs.
And it is very subjective to each person as well. So it's just, it's wild. I think that's the biggest thing that I've come across in the last 10 years that working in the fitness industry is just more so in the last 3 years, the amount of confusion and contradiction must just be absolutely wild for people. So obviously we've got the luxury of it being part of our job that we get the time to look into it. But for just normal people, they must just think, and I feel like this is why a lot of people give up. Because it's just information overload. Half of the information they're getting is slightly warped to suit, you know, the money value of selling the product. And it's just... I'm with you on the rabbit hole of that. We could go into so many different products.
I'm protein bars. I didn't even know 15 grams was a lot. Is that a lot?
Of sugar? Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So you can get some of them. So like the grenade bars, they only have like 1 gram of sugar in, but they've got a lot of calories. So they've got like 250 calories, some of them. So it depends what you're looking for. So like guys might want to put weight on and that's great for them. But if a girl's trying to lose weight and she's thinking, oh, no added sugar, that's great. But then you turn it over and there's 15 grams of sugar in it, then that's not going to benefit what she's actually trying to achieve. Do you know what I mean? And another one that's dead bad is when they say the calories, but then in fucking mini writing they say, per 50 ml, and then it's like a 500 ml bottle, and do you know what I mean? And then they're like, oh my god, it's only 60 calories, and I'm like, yeah, babe, like times 5, like, do you know what I mean? So, and it's just because it's so naughty the way they do it.
On the Biscoff jar, to be fair, it's like 1 serving. It's like, that's not 1 serving. I must be having like 4 servings.
I always find that funny with my fitness pal as well, like, when people say like, oh, I just had a bowl of Cocoa Pops, but their bowl compared to like the 30 gram serving that Fitness Pal thinks you're having is like, it's so different. So it's just being aware of like, don't be too trusting with them. And I know that sounds like really bad, like really skeptical advice, but like the biggest one for me is like, absolutely, if it says no added sugar, don't believe it. Turn it over and actually read it, because no added sugar should mean like not a lot of sugar, do you know what I mean? But sometimes you can turn them over and they've got like, some of these yogurts have like 15 grams in them. But then there are really good ones like the Linda ones, what are they? And then thick ones, they've only got like 1 in.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like, for me, like obviously that's a different reason why I have to know the sugar content. But if you've not got a personal reason why you'd have to know that, like I'm diabetic, you would literally just read no added sugar and 25 grams and think that's mint. So that was a good rabbit hole. We could go. There's loads more. What do you think then? Like, what's your view on protein shakes? Like, beneficial or not? Because some people, there's oh God, I can't remember his name. Should have looked before we got on camera. There's a bodybuilding guy who's out at the minute.
I've seen it.
He's got beef. Yes, let's get into it.
To be honest, I just stopped watching after the first 10 seconds.
I'm gonna have to get into it.
Because he said something about people ask me about research, I do my own research or something like that, and as soon as he said that, I just turned it off.
So I was watching the bit, so he's got beef with James.
16%.
James Smith, the PT now, as well. There's beef between them, isn't there?
I've watched a few of his. I wouldn't take too much.
So we don't agree with him.
It's a similar thing where someone's trained for years and years.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's in great shape. He's in great shape for his age, body, but that does not necessarily mean that he's like knows about nutrition.
But that's frightening, because somebody would look at him and think, he's in mint shape and he's telling me to eat all this, and not count my calories and do whatever I want. I
think it's one of the things where like he's probably got the right message in a way where he's trying to educate people. But he was spitting out all things like he can only digest like 16% of whey protein. There's just no evidence to show that whatsoever.
This is why I'm asking you, because even me, like I've worked in the fitness industry for 10 years, like I'm a PT, I'm type 1 diabetic, like I know a lot about nutrition. But even me, like I'll read that and I'll see that and be like, oh shit. And then you have to like look into it, and I think like normal people who don't want to look into it and stuff, like it must just be so
confusing. It's confusing. A protein supplement is a supplement, so it's supplementing in your diet. If you're not getting it via food, protein shake is good. But obviously, would I advocate if you had two options, the protein shake or having some eggs? Definitely, eggs is
real food.
Real food.
I always vote for the real food.
It was just when he said, did he say something like, people are saying, where's the research? I don't care, I do my own research. And I was like,
yeah, so he was basically saying that you won't basically get the nutrients that are something. So I was like, I'm going to have to ask Peter about this.
I think it's one of the things as well where it's kind of stay in your lane. As I said, he's probably got the right message trying to educate people, but it's a big thing to just go pull out like a fact out there and there's no kind of truth behind it. No evidence, no articles, nothing, no references. Oh, here's the reference. If I ever did anything which was like I did a post ages ago about like talking about like what factors influence hydration set, and I made sure I put every single reference. Because people are going to question, where did you get your information? You didn't pluck it out from it. He sounded like he just plucked it out from it. But
and he was stood in front of like a whiteboard as well, so it made him look a bit more official. So I was like, oh, maybe he knows what he's on about.
I think I seen him do one.
I'm not gonna lie, I do follow him, so if anyone goes on my page, I'm like, look at this bitch calling him.
It's one, but at the same time, people look at him and going, well, he's in decent
shape, and he's an older fella.
He probably will give decent nutrition advice, like the fundamental. But like them little intricacies about that, and like you don't. I feel
like it's hard when somebody with a big platform makes like a massive wide statement, because it's just open to so much, like But so him and James Smith now got like a little beef between them. So James Smith has replied. So basically, the bodybuilding guy.
I've seen the post he did about, was it the egg one? I think he did. Did he do a video like yesterday or the day before?
Yeah. So James Smith has come back and said, like, so basically the bodybuilder guy was like, don't count your calories, like that's all bullshit.
Yeah, it's all come from
But then when James went back over the bodybuilder's video, he was actually in a roundabout way telling you, like, so you say it as well about like the 3-2-1, carb, protein, and James was saying like you actually are telling them. Like
keep the protein high. It's like keep the protein high. What's high to like what's classed as high.
So then James was saying like to do that you have to have a metric based on their body weight, their daily intake, and then he was like, so that is counting calories. So like in a way, he was kind of like he was agreeing with James without knowing he was, because he was saying it, but he was just saying don't count your calories, but compared to your body weight, this is how much protein you have to eat, and it's like, well, that is counting. Like I feel like it gets a bad rap of like, thinking it's extreme.
Yeah, I think it's just confusing the shit out of people. Yeah. Like, that's all. Like that's all it comes down to. Just like it just confuses.
Well, it worked on me, confused me.
I started watching like the first 10 seconds, and then he started saying like, I do my own. I think he meant I do my own research, and like he examined it himself, not like he read something. I was like, I'm turning this off.
Right, we'll move away from the rabbit hole. So before we went down the rabbit hole, we were talking about like the hydration and stuff. One thing I wanted to ask you, which I know nothing about, but you've spoke about it recently, is the hydration tests that they introduce in. So you're not a fan. Tell us what it is and tell us why.
Okay, I'll have to tread my words carefully here.
I'm going to get you in so much trouble on this podcast. He's like splitting everyone. I don't like this, I don't like that.
I'll say a certain organisation uses a hydration test. So basically when you're dehydrated, and you're losing water, your body releases a hormone called AVP, so it's called antidiuretic hormone. So basically helps you hold on to water in the body to prevent you become more dehydrated. So in theory, you jump on the scales and do a hydration test. I'll go back a little bit there actually. Sorry. So basically, they do in this organisation, you've got to pass hydration, you've got to pass weight.
Yeah.
So you got to So
this is literally testing the weight?
Yeah, so basically they do what's called the urine specific gravity test.
I don't know why I did that. That was me like sticking the stick in the weight.
It's very similar to that. So,
I saw it on the...
So they do a urine specific gravity test. So you measure the density of urine compared to the density of water. So urine is around like 90% water, and the other 10% consists of like metabolites like urea, uric acid, creatinine. So for example, when you're dehydrated and you're sitting in the sauna and you begin to sweat, your body's got mechanisms to prevent you becoming more dehydrated. So it releases a hormone called antidiuretic hormone. So it basically tells the kidneys to we need to really prevent us from losing water. So say you cut weight, you pissed in a cup and they did that test, you would technically fail that test because you're classed as dehydrated.
Yeah.
But the only problem with that is there's so many factors that influence that test. So your urine is obviously whether you're dehydrated or not does have an impact on like the colour of your urine, but the score of your see, I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole here. So
no, it's dead interesting though, because I've seen a lot about it, and I always think like what are they testing for? Is it to make sure that they're not doing too much of a weight, too much of a water cut?
They don't want people to cut weight. That's the whole the body implemented it is to prevent people from.
That's to avoid them coming in at the weight and then coming in too heavy for the fight. Oh, not too heavy, but putting a lot of weight back on.
But the only thing with a urine test is there's so many factors that influence the urine test, like what you've eaten, the type of training you've done, the diet, supplements you've had. So this organisation uses a cut-off score of like 1.025. So if you're that or over, you fail. If you're that or under, you passed.
Right.
So people, for example, have with the urine, you tested everyone off the street, as I said before, you tested everyone off the street and did a urine test. Probably 70-80% would be classed as dehydrated. But as I said, what you have in your diet can influence that. So you have a high protein diet, you break down urea, so a byproduct of that, protein is urea, that comes out in your urine. So if you're having a lot of protein, your score would potentially be higher than, say, someone who doesn't have a high protein diet. Also, the training that you do when say you're absolutely smashing pads and you went to go for the piss after and you did that test, your urine score would probably be quite high because you've broken down things that come out. Yeah. So basically, when you break down, so when you've eaten things, byproducts used to come out even in feces or urine. So if you're having food, come like byproduct like protein metabolism that comes out in your urine. You're doing any kind of exercise.
There's too many factors that could
there's a lot of factors. So like you could be hydrated doing that test, piss in the cup, and come back dehydrated, all dependent on them other factors.
Yeah.
So the only downside, the kind of not the downside, what's the right word for it? The issue with that test is easily manipulated. You can quite easily,
you said this one.
You quite easily cheat the test.
Yeah.
By just drinking a large, so like say you drank quite a lot of water quite quickly. So basically, even when you're dehydrated, your body's got mechanisms to prevent it from being too dehydrated and also being too hydrated, so overhydration. So you could drink a litre of water really quick. If you did that now, drank it really quick, that'll probably go through you quite quick, and you'll need the toilet in the space of maybe like 20 minutes. So what a lot of fighters do is you'll cut the weight,
and then
they'll cut a little bit more, and they'll drink that fluid,
pass the test, but they've still done,
and then they'll piss what they've drank.
So why has it been introduced then? Like, that's weird.
It's very hard. Like for the average person, it's quite hard to explain like the test and all the variables. And obviously, it's quite difficult for me because I have certain people in that organisation.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So,
I'm pushing it today. I'm asking some basic questions.
It's just a test where...
I'm not trying to get you sacked, I promise.
There's so many factors that will influence that test.
Yeah.
And there's ways to cheat the test. So it's just a bit of a waste of a test. Because everyone's cutting weight. Everyone's doing
course,
that. It'd be actually better to pass the test by cheating than not cheating. You got more chance of failing. Just not if you didn't cut any weight and try to do the test than you would be to do it that way, really.
It's so interesting though, from like obviously the outside, like if you've not worked with a nutritionist or if you've not been in like a sort of like professional level fight camp, for like normal fighters just watching this, it is good for them to be aware of like beforehand. Like, do you know, if there's somebody watching now who's planning on going to those levels, it's just stuff to be aware of, because I've only really started learning about all this since being around like higher level guys, like obviously Liam Haggerty and yourself. That it's not as like spoken about, and like the lower.
It's like kind of like brushed under the carpet. Like no one. I think it's accepted that this is what you have to do. We have to pass that test. So, and it's just a hurdle that fighters are always going to find a way to. Yeah. I wouldn't say cheat, but to overcome a hurdle. So if there's a hydration test, we'll find a way to manipulate it. If there's a thingy test, we'll find another way. There's always cutting weight is inherently dishonest. Yeah. Like you cut weight for an advantage. So
it's so true. It is though. Like the whole thing is very very tactical.
Yeah,
like
so
the reason we're doing
think of a way to overcome it. So when them hydration tests come into play, there's a way to do it.
We'll just dodge that as well.
There's a way to dodge it. So, but the only problem is when you're doing that and you're manipulating fluid intake and you're drinking large volumes of fluid, when you're dehydrated, that can mess up your electrolyte balance in your body, and that can lead to like dangerous health complications because you overload your body with fluids. There's been instances where people have overhydrated when like marathon runners in the heat, because naturally when you're running in the heat, you a lot more. You need a drink. You're thirsty. So what's happened in the past is people have thought, I need to drink loads of fluid, and they've drank too much fluid and they've actually died from overhydration. Yeah,
I've heard stories about that.
It's called.
Yeah, stories about that with people taking drugs as well. Like ecstasy apparently can make you like. Yeah. I remember when I was growing up, there's a story about somebody like an overhydration thing like related to drugs. So people don't realise like. So
if you're doing that with any guidance and then you're thinking, you don't know what you're doing, you've heard of the way to kind of pass the test, and then you're like, I've been told to drink loads of fluid, I don't know how much, and you don't know. You potentially could put yourself in danger, and then say you fail, and you have to go back and do it again, and you're just drinking, losing, and like it's dangerous.
What do you think the answer is? What would be the best solution?
Just not to use. Will that certain organisation just not do that test?
Not do it.
I mean, I know why fighters get down, but when you look at someone like Haggerty that went up and just looked phenomenal, you think it's a bit of a catch-22, really, isn't it? Like,
I think also as well, it all depends on like people's body type and shape. Like some people have to like fight at a lower weight class because the body composition is just not suited for a higher weight class. Like Haggerty. We've got a big frame, Haggerty, so he naturally transitioned when we moved him into bantamweight. But certain people just haven't got that size where you think they're going to be fighting guys who are a lot bigger. But yeah, in terms of the test, I think it's just scrap that test. There's loads of shit.
Weight cutting is wild.
How does that hydration test differ from like the WBC do weight? Like
I'm a big fan of the weight checks either.
You're not a big fan?
No. This is the whole conversation about how fighters always find the way to gain an advantage. If you've got like a weight check 10 days out, 2 weeks out, and I've got to be a certain percentage, all they're going to do is they're going to go, right, I just need to...
It's just like a pre-weigh-in. You're just going to do
a bit of a run. Just not have any carbs like before. Might get in the bath, quick bath, and then so they're just cutting weight, and then they're not naturally that weight.
Yeah, it's not actually that weight, and it will probably go back on the next day.
They've done a check weight treat,
and then they're just going to carry on what they were doing. Yeah, it does make sense.
So it's like, makes your job hard.
It's actually just more hurdles for you.
I'm like kind of openly admitting that's what I get people to do, but in a way, it's just like it's another hurdle, and fighters are always going to think of a way to
of course.
Get over that.
But like I say, like the whole weight cutting thing anyway is a tactical move. So it completely makes sense that they are just gonna find a way to keep the edge.
Yeah.
What's the difference between women cutting weight and men cutting weight? Is there a difference in...
There's definitely differences because firstly, you got to look at it from like a body composition standpoint, is where females typically have lower total body water than males. They've got a lower pool of body water, so females typically have like a higher percentage of fat mass compared to males. So water, muscles like 70% water, but fat is like 10-20% water. So if you've got more body fat, you've got less total body water, so less of a pool of water to lose when
so
you're doing it.
they can't really do the water drop as much as the guys.
Yeah, and also like with the menstrual cycle as well, that can have an influence on like your core body temperature. A different phase of the cycle can have an impact on, say, the early phase of your cycle, the follicular phase. That's when, or the late follicular phase, that's when estrogen is pretty high. So a lot of times estrogen you can have like hold on to a lot of water, so fluid retention from that.
Yeah.
So it's always important to like, for any like female fighter that work with, kind of like know if they're tracking the cycle, to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And also after after ovulation, like, you know, mid-cycle, you go into the luteal phase, which is a hormone gets released called progesterone, and progesterone can increase your core temperature by around like 0.5 degree. So if you've got a naturally higher core temperature, so when you're cutting weight, you're at a higher set point than someone say for a male. So you're more at risk to have any kind of heat illness, because you're cutting a decent amount of water weight. Your core temperature is going higher and higher and higher, but you're already at a higher set point anyway.
At a higher point, yeah.
So typically when you lose around 1% of your body mass, your core temperature goes up about like 0.2, 0.3 of a degree. So if you're naturally, naturally higher, and then you're cutting a female's cutting 5% of the body weight.
Again.
So you're at risk then for heat.
That's something that you just wouldn't have even thought of.
Yeah, so you're at risk for like heat illness and heat stroke and stuff like that. So for female fights, you don't want to be cutting like large amounts of water weight, and also with the cycle, everyone's completely individual. People have got different cycles and different kind of responses. Some people have like fluid retention in the early phase, later phase. So you always got to know your fighter and know.
It's like personal to each one.
Yeah, what pays, because that's the thing. With male physiology, you could probably write it in a text, but with female physiology, it's so
so intricate.
The research is actually quite. There's not a lot of research on it, in terms of like female, like in sport too. So the cycle plays a big part of like in terms of the weight cutting process, because if you don't know that.
Yeah, I think that's something that everyone can benefit from knowing, like all women can benefit from knowing, is like the different stages of the cycle and like how that is going to affect, even not for like weight cutting or for fighting, but just for training in general. Like the different levels of like when you're going to fatigue or you won't be able to lift as heavy, that kind of thing. So it's just stuff that people don't think about until you bring it to their attention, because they wouldn't think that would affect it. So it's I didn't even think about that in like a weight cutting sense.
Well, so also as well, we're doing like drastic weight cuts as well. A lot of female fighters like miss the period. Cycle stops. And then that can lead into health complications. It can affect bone health. Because you've got the way the body is when typically if you do start missing your period, that's because the body is trying to conserve, because it's obviously an energetic process. Your cycle. So you're trying to preserve your energy for other processes. And one of the things that happens is you stop having your cycle, and sometimes that can take months, couple of years to get back. And if you're competing all the time, you're constantly dieting. You haven't got that time to recover. And there's been like case studies on trying to recover like female, not necessarily fighters, but female athletes, cycles, and it requires adding a little bit more weight on, like being in a calorie surplus, increasing the calories. For a fighter, you're not going to go, like, by the way, we need 6 months off and we need to restore your cycle. You're like, I'm not going to do that.
No, they won't. They'll just
so it's a difficult conversation to have, and it's a very intricate area.
Yeah.
And yeah,
another thing to make your job difficult.
I'd say it's a lot harder than working with a male, but there's so many different things you've got to take into account, and you know, some females wake up and go, "Oh, I'm 2 kilos heavy today." There's no explanation why.
Yes, I feel that one.
Obviously, in a weight cutting process,
so frustrating.
You're just like, "What the hell's going on? I've done nothing," and you know.
And why is that? Is that just like the difference of our cycles, our water retention?
You know, some people, I've worked with a couple of females who are quite responsive to like salt intake. So they have anything that's pretty high in salt.
The water retention.
They just hold on to a lot of water. So it's kind of knowing your fighter, and luckily there's no one working whose cycle has stopped or anything like that. But when that happens, that's like a warning sign. Like, okay, what are we doing here?
Yes,
even though that's not necessarily the sole cause of it.
Yeah, of course, but it's something to be aware of. Because
stress can influence that too. Like there's so many factors, but a big factor is are you on really low calories? To fuel your body. That's one of the things that the body tries to take away is an energetic process.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about as well, like, is sort of like separate from condition nutrition, and it's just as like Pete Miller. So we was at the Vinny Shawman mindset event together, which was amazing. It was like very, very interesting, and like going through like different sort of meditations and all that sort of stuff. Is that something that you are interested in? And like, what's your like personal mindset like? Because obviously you have achieved a lot. So I'm always keen. Obviously, it's great that we've got you for the nutritional information, but I'm always keen for like the mindset of the person.
Yeah. I'm a little bit of a nerd, like a closet nerd and all that kind of stuff. I love all my stoicism and stuff like that, yeah. A big fan of like Ryan Holiday, if you heard of Ryan Holiday.
No, but I'll be checking it out.
Daily Stoic on YouTube, watch it, it's good. I'm always into like my self-development, just trying to think of ways to be better, because I'm quite an ambitious person. I always want to improve, and I always feel like sometimes you'd always need to... I always want like what's next, and
oh god, yeah,
what's the next thing. You'll see something like, okay, yeah, what's next then?
Yeah.
And like stoicism helps me quite a lot on that, and like the way like you view certain things. And I used to be mad into like Tony Robbins back in the day.
Oh yeah, I'm crazy. I
used to love Tony Robbins.
And, like Ed Miler, I love him as well.
So I'm always listening to them kind of stuff. But sometimes I find, I don't know if you find this, but when you listen to too much of that kind of stuff, it kind of gets a bit like brain foggy. Like I have to try and listen to like a couple of people at a time.
I have like my favourites.
Yeah, if I listen to so many people, I'm just like the same one thing, this one saying another thing. Yeah. I like kind of stick to the same people. Like Ryan Holiday, Daily Stoic's a good thing. I think I was just trying. There's always ways to improve yourself, isn't there? There's always ways to like your mindset and how you look at things. And we all get like bad days, and I like the Daily Stoic because there's ways like Stoicism gives you kind of reference point to look at things, and certain things happen in your life, and it's kind of a beacon of light to follow. I nerd out on all that kind of stuff.
I love that though, and I think you need it because you are so ambitious and you've achieved so much and you've got so much going on. Yeah. You need that like grounding point of like, okay, what's gonna sort of like just have that moment. So I've seen sometimes like you go like down to the beach and just have like little moments to yourself. Like I've been bad in the past for just like going 100 mile an hour, foot on the gas, like no break, and then you achieve a lot that way, but it's miserable at some point. So you just think, whereas
I've
when
done
you
that
get
before, where like I've done this, and like, if I get this, if I work with this,
this is going to change everything.
I'm going to be happy. Then it's happened, and you're like, not really much has changed, and you realise that it's not like them external goals mean nothing really. Like you need to be like happy with yourself, and it's always like a process of finding what makes you happy. And like I love me alone time. I love going to like a walk, or like going like climb a mountain on my own, and just like that kind of space, right? Because especially like my job being on my phone and my laptop quite a lot.
Yeah, all the time.
Sometimes I know when I'm on my phone, I wake up, especially with the time difference. Like Australian and Thailand clients, I wake up sometimes I've got like 50 messages like first thing in the morning.
It's overwhelming,
and then your brain just like I know when my brain's like fogging, and I'm like I've got a lockbox on my phone, so I put my phone in a lockbox.
Oh yeah. I've not got a lockbox, but I've like
good to mention.
I will. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get one, because like the same like if you look at your phone first thing in the morning, so I have like a rule of like do not disturb now, because sometimes obviously being self-employed, clients will message you at like wild times, like people message me at like 10:30 at night, but I've been up since 5, so it's like, it's a bit of a madden. So just trying to find, because it's so easy, it's just like there as soon as you look at it, but then once you've seen the 20 notifications, like instantly you're in a mood then, because it's like you've not had that moment to just so like I think like for me personally, like taking like half an hour, so an hour if you can, but obviously if you're busy, like half an hour just to not look at the phone, to just sit and have like, you know, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, whatever you're having, and just to have that moment.
I train in the morning, so like it's good for me because I'll go to the gym, I'll put my phone in the car, and then I'm done by like 20 past. I got to train at 6. I'm done by like 20 past 7, and like that's like my first hour. I'm not thinking about the phone. But then sometimes I fall into the trap. I open my phone, boom, I'm gonna mess to this.
Straight onto it.
And then you just feel like, oh, my brain's just
overwhelmed with it
sometimes. But having the lockbox definitely helps. So
I'm gonna have to get one. I'm gonna have to get one.
But I fucked up one because I got the lockbox when travelling, and it's batteried, so basically it's a clear box, put it in, type the numbers in, close it, and it will not open until that time.
So
and it's see-through.
I could do that for snacks.
It's actually quite big, you know. It's actually a decent size. And I had it, and it kept on beeping, so I thought, oh, the
time's up.
The batteries run out, so that's why it's beeping. So I put it in, and the batteries beeping, and I don't know why, but my phone was in the lockbox at the time, and I took the batteries out, and
that's it.
That was it.
Oh my God.
It was gone. So I'd be like phoning this lockbox. I was like, how am I gonna get the phone off? I was like Abu Dhabi's like, I was looking like there, trying to break it down, just wouldn't break.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I had to get a new lockbox. Long story short.
Well, it's a good advert for it because it shows like you definitely can't get in it.
Yeah. So I always think like, if you need to get in that phone, you're that desperate because it's see-through. You've got issues if you need to break that, and I've actually had to break it, but like not for that reason. No.
Yeah, God, of course. No, I remember at the Vinny Showman Mindset event that we did, you were talking about like so that thing that we're all bad for is like wanting the next thing, and one of them you were talking about was like you've grown your page to such an extent that then it's always like, well, what now? Are like attaching Peter Miller to the condition nutrition, and not like, how have you found like since then? So that we've just figured out that was about 6 months ago. Like, how do you sort of like find that balance of, it is amazing what you're achieving, and you're working like you are like living the dream of like, you know, 3 years ago these were your goals and now you've got them. How would you find the line of like, I want to achieve more because that's how I got to this point, but I also need to like enjoy the bit of where I'm at now?
I think there's something I'm still working on now, to be honest with you. Like I'm still trying to just like have that life away from work, and because my life's been so intertwined to work, like Peter's conditioned nutrition kind of thing, and that's what I'm known for, and it's like trying to distance yourself from it sometimes. And I think it's just, I find like going outside and going somewhere and just getting away from it all just helps. But I think just naturally with your own business, you're always going to be like pretty active on your phone. You're always going to, and that, you know, I've got to look and go, I could be in worse situations. And look and think, you know, it's not a bad problem to have, but it's kind of, just taking that. I always try and have like a Sunday afternoon where I'll go somewhere,
like try and designate a day, I'm doing that at the minute.
Day, and spending more time with my family as well, like, because I hadn't seen my family for years when I've been living in Australia. Like, having one night a week, I'll take my mum for something to eat, and there's like designated things like that, having like time away from work to like
scheduling in time for you.
I'll be at home at 9 o'clock at night and go, I've just got an idea for the post, and I'll get my laptop out, and then I'll be working on my laptop.
Miles is behind the camera like, I've got
an idea for the post, and like it's like 9 o'clock at night, and then now like I'm not doing that. I'm like, Peter, going to bed in a minute, I'm not thinking of it. Write it down, we do it in the morning.
Trying to stick to like the boundaries of self-care as well as like all the achievement.
And I think it's my phone, I haven't got another phone, that's my phone, it's my work and everything's on it.
Same.
So not having that kind of
split.
It's just, I think it's a work in progress. I probably haven't figured it out just yet, but...
Do you think you better, so like now, as opposed to like, say like 12 months ago, can you feel like, because obviously you are putting all the things in place, like obviously you're going to the beaches, you're having your alone time, you're doing the daily stoic and stuff. Do you feel like it's like a progression of, you are getting there? It's just like something you're learning over time?
I think it's a slow, like a work in progress where you kind of know when you're burning out a little bit, and you know, like, okay, well,
something's
feel
got to give.
A little bit like, I feel a little bit thingy today.
Just get more in tune with how you're feeling.
And just knowing, like, okay, I feel like I need to go somewhere today, and then you do it, and you're like, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
I made up when climbing that mountain today because I just cleared my mind.
That's true. That sometimes it's mad. Like I can do that. Like I'll be working for like 3 weeks straight and not have a day off, and then I'm like, I need to do this one thing, and then I go swimming.
Yeah.
And then sometimes
just a day that you need.
That's all I need. Yeah, it's like that 2 hours to myself, and then sometimes I'm like, God, I'm not asking for much. I'm just like, but sometimes that is all you need. But I think it's just like you said, like trying to tap into like not ignoring that and not just like running past it when it's like...
very easy to get caught up and go, oh, I'll just take more on, I'll take more on, and you just like take it on, and then you're like,
can't physically take anything else right now.
Work in progress, I think.
So after me asking you, this is such contradiction, I'm just asking like, how'd you chill out? How'd you find the balance? Now I want to know like, what's next for condition nutrition? Like, tell me the goals. Like, where we're going to be at in like 12 to...
See, I don't really set specific like goals.
I think you've
like
said
that.
this before.
Yeah, I just like, it might be a good thing or a bad thing. I just kind of go with the flow and go, well, as long as I'm heading in the right direction,
just keep
working, I'm putting them hours in every day and grinding away, then other opportunities of this will naturally come. As long as you do the work and I show up every day, then it'll just kind of naturally come.
I love it. Amazing. Is there anything, I said this to you beforehand because I get giddy and we go off on tangents, is there anything that I've not spoke about that you think is worth speaking about, or anything that when we spoke off camera, is there anything we forgot? I think so. The male and female one was the one that I hadn't messaged.
I don't think so. Have we got? I can't think.
Do you know what? It'll be one of those moments where we're like, no, yeah, we got it. And then as soon as we're like, okay, guys, thanks, it'll be like, oh shit, we didn't say that. I do that every time. Every single time.
Can we talk about heat acclimation?
Yes.
Can we talk about heat acclimation?
Yeah.
So,
Haggerty or Harrison?
No, we're not talking about
Oh yeah, good. Of course, you're in both. Yeah. Worked with both fighters. That is going to be an interesting one for you.
This podcast will be detrimental to you.
I just don't say anything. I'm just the nutrition guy. I just give the chicken broccoli rice. I've got no knowledge of fighting whatsoever. We're talking about heat because I think that's quite a good topic to talk about, because when we talk about the water cutting process and people doing big water cuts and putting lots of weight in the sauna and the bath, I think heat acclimation is like important to speak of, because I'll give a scenario where we're in the northwest here, it's cold, majority of the year, the winter, and then you need to cut weight in the bath or the sauna for your fight.
Yeah. And
you get in that sauna, I don't know if you ever cut weight before, and it's not pleasant, is it? Like, first time you jump in, really, really hot, uncomfortable. What heat acclimation is basically training your body to that environment. So there's either heat acclimation or heat acclimatization. So heat acclimatization, so we see people training for the Olympics up in Mexico or California. So that's like in an actual warm environment. Heat acclimation is in like a what's the word for it? Environment, a kind of like fake environment, where like you're trying to mimic. Mimic. That's the one. So with the heat acclimation, getting your body prepared for that water cutting, you can actually improve that water cutting process. You can enhance your sweat rate. You can feel more comfortable when you're in the sauna. You lose less electrolytes when you sweat. So if you're doing that, just that
you use less electrolytes when you sweat?
You lose less electrolytes. So you can save more electrolytes in your body when you're doing the heat acclimation. So when you lose electrolytes, that can affect like kind of muscle contraction, the functions in the body if you lose a lot of electrolytes. So when you do the heat acclimation, you lose less, particularly sodium. The sodium's the main electrolyte that you lose in sweat, so you lose less sodium, so you retain more sodium, and your sweat rates increase too. And one of the main things is like the actual comfort, like the comfortable experience. So I'll get guys to do, and females, sit in the sauna a couple of times a week.
Like build up, ain't you?
Yeah, so it's like a gradual thing. So I look at it as in like, think of it, you're doing a training, it's like a progressive overload. So say you've got an 8-week fight camp, and we know we're going to have to cut roughly like, say, 2 kilos. How can we make that process a lot easier for you? So we'll start heat acclimation. So we'll gradually go in the sauna or the bath. Say you can only tolerate 15 minutes using the sauna. So first week of fight camp, get in that sauna for 15 minutes. Next time we do at the end of the week, try and push it up to 17 minutes, for example, and then the next week try and push it to 20 minutes, and just doing a progressive overload, and then just train your body to get used to being in that heat.
And then you start sweating sooner then as well, don't you?
Start sweating sooner, So you get a lower heart rate, so it's less strenuous on the body. You get a lower core temperature. So that music's loud, isn't it?
I know, do you want to tell Dale? Because it's only Dale, that.
I think it's downstairs.
Is it not him? I've just heard him.
I don't know. So obnoxious, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it's not.
So you get a lower resting core temperature. So obviously when we talk about the water cut, when you lose water, when you dehydrate, your core temperature increases. If you're starting off with a lower core temperature, the whole overall experience is more comfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main things is like you get all them adaptations and physiological adaptations, but also the overall comfort when you've done that for weeks on end and you jump in that sauna to get that final bit of weight off.
Yeah, it's like, not as much of a shock.
I've done this for the past 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Sound?
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's never easy, but it's a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, it's not as much of a shock to the system as mentally as well.
Then when you don't do it, all them processes take longer, so you get your heart rate increases more, the cardiovascular strain on the body. You take longer to sweat. You've probably known if you've gone to the sauna before and you haven't been in for a while, it takes you a while to sweat. And also the comfort thing. So the heat acclimation thing is like a massive thing I implement in my fighters, like straight away, like every week. How many heat acclimation sessions you've been doing? Tell me, record the sweat rate, and then we know then, okay, when it comes to the cut, we know you've been losing.
You can do this.
We know you've been losing 600 grams in 20 minutes in the sauna, so you've got 2 kilos to go. Oh, that'll be like 3 rounds in the sauna. So we kind of know where you're at then, instead of like guessing. I'll just sit in the sauna
and see what happens. Yeah, like happens. Close to the fight.
We know. Okay, record the data. Go in, mimic a kind of water cut scenario. Where go in, don't have any fluids, weigh yourself before and after, and see what you've lost. Then we track that data over the weeks. So then when it comes into that water, we go, okay. It's going to take you probably like 2 20-minute rounds in the sauna and we'll be done then.
It's so good though, because like it's those like 1-2% that we keep talking about, and it's just knowing about it. Because like obviously even now, like if you're a fighter watching and you're not at those high levels where you have got that, it's having someone to say like. So even something as simple as that is like record the after 20 minutes how much have you lost, and then like you say the information, like knowledge is power, innit? Like the more you know, the more you can sort of adapt around it. So would you recommend people doing obviously the heat acclimation stuff, like even if they're not in like a particular fight camp, just to keep the body? Can
you get a thing called heat acclimation decay? So when you stop doing it,
it declines again.
You stop training, them adaptations.
So you just recommend.
But the good thing about heat acclimation is when you do have you stop doing it and then you reintroduce it again, the adaptations go up quite quick again.
Right, okay, so if you've done it, I don't break, but then you come back.
So when you do, your sweat rate increase, all them adaptations have gone up, but then you stop taking it, you go back down to baseline where you
comes back quick again.
So when you start again, it comes back up quicker, because typically it takes around 7 to 14 sessions to be heat acclimated.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So the kind of like cardiovascular adaptations occur within like the first few days, but like the stuff within like the sweat rate and stuff, the increased sweat rate, you're losing less electrolytes. That happens the more you do. So it's like 7 to 14 days. So think if you've got an 8-week fight camp and you did 2 to 3 sessions a week, you'd be heat acclimated by like around like week 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, just by going to the sauna a couple of days a week.
It doesn't even sound that bad, that, is it? Like, just go in the sauna 15-20 minutes.
And people like it because it's quite relaxing.
I was going to say, like, all the gyms I work at have, like, spa areas. I'm just going to have to start going in there.
And this is important with, like, a female fighter as well. Like, was mentioned with the sweat rate, females don't have less total body water, so typically don't sweat as much as males. So knowing that for females is also important because, as I said, they don't typically females don't sweat as much as males. So knowing that data when it comes to the water,
having that track, like this is how much I'm losing. It's never going
to be to the exact number. You've got a rough idea. Okay, we know you're losing X amount in 20 minutes. When it comes to the water cup, we've got a better idea then. And just planning through that.
So interesting. I feel like I've just learned so much. I want to talk to you a bit more. I feel I have to do it off camera because I've probably got you in so much trouble in this podcast, but there's so many other rabbit holes I want to go down. I want to know what other companies you're not feeling. I want to know what other... We'll have to get you on again, 100%. Is there anything else? So we've gone through, obviously, the sodium, the fibre, the sort of like lead up to the fight camp, the after the fight camp. And then just advice, obviously, we've got for like normal people who aren't necessarily, because I think the problem is, like you said, like with the crossover of fighting and normal people is like once everything could be pretty similar until the fight, and then obviously the fighters are trying to put it back on. So for everyday people, obviously, we're not giving the same advice for them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, as I said, I like the fundamentals. As long as you're getting the fundamentals right, you know. You get enough fruits and vegetables, get enough protein, you're sleeping well. Sleep's important. You know, even just like the sleep practices are like massive. Doesn't get spoken about enough. Having a good sleeping routine. You know what you do before you go to bed. Are you watching telly?
I think that's a problem for a lot of people. Or on the phone, scrolling. We all need a
stuff like that. Yeah.
That's someone we can find you to team up with. So we were not going to team you up with CBD or any of the other supplements, but we'll team you up with we'll get a sponsor from Lockbox.
I was hoping a sponsorship with the CBD cream.
Stick it in the Lockbox. Right, Peter, thank you so much for your time. You've been very generous. We've had a really long one, but it's really useful information for the everyday person, but obviously for the fighters as well. So check out Condition Nutrition, Pete Miller on Instagram, and I'll be checking out the Daily Stoic now as well, because that's going to be the first thing I'll do. I'm picking it up. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Double up, the money I cuddle up.